The following is a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club.
Welcome everybody to the 2022 Summer Chess Classic here at the St. Louis Chess Club. I am Grandmaster Alejandro Ramirez to bring you all of the action with my good friend Grandmaster Cristian Chirila.
Alejandro, always a pleasure to be here casting the games of some of the best chess players that we have here on the ground in St. Louis. We have two amazing events, 10 players at the start. Unfortunately, we have some news. Tell us about that.
Yeah, unfortunately, both of our tournaments are down one player. Let's start by seeing what happened, unfortunately, to Ray Robson. He's participating in Group A, but just before the start of his round number 4, he did test positive for COVID and unfortunately had to withdraw from the event. Because he withdrew before the half-point mark, his results against Yangyi, Oparin, and Mishra are annulled. That means that everybody gets deducted whatever they scored against Robson, and no points are awarded for his opponents on the remaining games.
Very important.
Yeah, this is very important, and it's very different than our situation in Group B.
We'll get to that in just a second, but let's take a look at the standings in Group A, Alejandro. We have tied for first position, Benjamin Gledura and Yangyi with 3 points apiece. But let's not forget, Benjamin Gledura actually did not play against Ray Robson. Jonas Bjerre, Abhi Mishra, and Sam Sevian are tied for the third position with 2.5 points apiece. Aram Hakobyan and Nikolas Theodorou on 2 points, Grigoriy Oparin on 1.5, and Ilya Smirin on 1 point. And tell us a bit about the situation in Group B, Alejandro.
Yeah, very unfortunately, we had a similar system where we had to withdraw a player. Unfortunately, this is not confirmed to be COVID. We're not saying it's that. Unfortunately, a player is sick, so he had to withdraw from the event. Because he withdrew after the halfway mark, his results with Checa, Dragun, Zhou, Harutyunyan, and Antipov are still valid, but he will forfeit the remaining games. Now, of course, it doesn't mean that he loses rating for those games. He will just stay neutral. But his results so far do count not only for rating, but also for the tournament standings. A little bit unlucky for the players that he has already played, especially for the players he's already beaten, but this is how chess works.
Yes, unfortunately, Checa will have to take that loss, and everybody else that is due to play him in the remainder of the games will get a full point. Now, let's take a look at the standings in Group B. Tied for first, we have Guillermo Vazquez and Ali Marandi with 3.5 points apiece. In sole third position, we have Kamil Dragun with 3 points. Tied for fourth position, that's a big tie. We have Zhou Jianchao, Mikhail Antipov, Brandon Jacobson, who unfortunately is no longer in the event, Christopher Yu, and John Burke. And in ninth position, sole ninth position, we have Tigran Harutyunyan, and in sole 10th position, the unfortunate Nico Checa with only 1 point. Now tell us about the tournament format, Alejandro.
It's pretty straightforward. We have two 10-player, well now 9-player round robins with a classical time control of 90 minutes for the first 40 moves, 30 minutes for the rest of the game, and a 30-second increment throughout. Very, very traditional, and similarly traditional is our schedule. 1 round a day, 1 p.m. start for every single day, except for the last round that we start on Friday at 11 a.m., and that is to accommodate a potential playoff in case that we need to break the tie between the winners of the tournament. And we are on social media. We are online. Join our conversations. We are on Twitter at #SummerChessClassic, and of course, we're also on YouTube and on Twitch. Join us on the chat. I'm keeping an eye on it. It's already quite active, and I am looking at it, guys, so don't think that I'm not. And as a reminder for everybody that is following us on YouTube and on Twitch, for every $75 that we get on donations, on bits, on subs, we'll be able to provide a full semester of chess programming for our students here at the St. Louis Chess Club, imparted by some top-level grandmasters. The St. Louis Chess Club has great initiatives, some of them which bring players from the very beginning of chess, scholastic chess, all the way to the top, the Sinkfield Cup and the U.S. Championships, passing through the Summer Chess Classics. So all kinds of chess are here, but we need your support. Those $75 really go a long way.
That is just an incredible sum. For only $75, you get a child through a semester of the best tutoring that there exists here in the United States. You have coaches such as Aram Hakobyan, you, Alejandro, I know you've been doing some of this as well. It's just an incredible mission that the St. Louis Chess Club is putting forward. Now, let's talk about the pairings in Group A. What games do we have? It seems like Benjamin Gledura versus Aram Hakobyan, as well as Ilya Smirin versus Nikolas Theodorou, have already finished in a draw. We only have 2 more games pending, the one between Grigoriy Oparin and Abhi Mishra, as well as Yangyi versus Sam Sevian, and that in fact is the key matchup in Group A. As we can see, Yangyi, one of the leaders of the event, going into the 6th round. He's playing at the white side against another 27-plus player, Sam Sevian, a player that's just been rising and rising in the past few months. Unfortunately, he was unable to break the ice in this tournament, but definitely in this one, a tough matchup against Yangyi.
Yeah, this is a great matchup. Two 2700s facing each other. It's not something that happens very often in chess outside of super elite events, where it be the World Cup, Singfield Cup, something that has a really major gravitas to it. So we're lucky to have them here at the Summer Chess Classic. They're certainly excited to play some of our players here in St. Louis. And Sevian has been one of those players that's risen through these events, been able to play some really top-level players. And look at what kind of players we attract. Yangyi, who has played all over the world, is playing against the best of the best.
Such an established top-level player.
Absolutely, and he's happy to come here and play. He actually requested to play this event. He had heard about it, and he contacted us instead of the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we never kind of expected to be able to get Yangyi in this tournament. Such a tough player, 27 plus. He has been actually over 2760, Alejandro,
That's amazing.
At one point in his career. And I remember him from when I was young, a decade ago, when I played in Argentina, and he was there. He was only a low-key 2450, 2500 level player, and then he immediately went into the stratospheric 27-plus level. Now, what do we have in that position, Alejandro? Let's take a look at it. Let's try to analyze it a bit.
It's hard to say for me at the moment. We're not using engines in this analysis because, well, that's how we feel like. And at the moment, it seems that white has the pluses, even though black has the pair of bishops. It seems that white could eliminate that pair of bishops whenever he feels like with knight takes e6.
Yes.
Currently, he also has the control over the c file. And let's be honest, the bishops are not very good.
No. As of now, the bishops are not very good. And to be honest, I don't see any prospects, short-term or long-term, for them, the bishops. At the same time, you have a beautiful knight on d4, a blockading knight. We know that the knight blockading is probably the best piece to do that job, but at some point it does seem like you will likely have to take on e6 or allow potentially the bishop from e7 to come to c5 and then take on at d4. I have to say it definitely feels like white has the initiative. Whether that's enough to create any sort of real problems for black, we shall wait and see.
We like white. We don't know if it's enough for an advantage, but we will definitely take white in this position.
Yeah.
Let's continue with the B pairings, and we'll come back to this game because it is quite fascinating. We'll be spending a lot of time on it. In the B pairings, well, Christopher Yu gets a full point forfeit win against Brandon Jacobson. Remember, because we already crossed the halfway mark, doesn't count for rating though, so no rating change there. Guillermo Vazquez, one of our tournament leaders, has already drawn his game against Nico Checa, who hasn't been able to really find his form in this tournament. And I think certainly the game of the day has to be this last pairing, JJ Ali Marandi against Kamil Dragun, because this could change up the leaderboard. JJ is currently the leader with Guillermo, both of them a 3.5 out of 5, and Kamil is the only player that is half a point away from them in striking distance. A win for black in this game would actually catapult the Polish player to first place.
Oh, absolutely. And actually, Guillermo already is in sole first position because he drew his game 4 points out of 6. Right now, JJ Ali Marandi with 3.5. He saw the result. He knows that he has the white pieces against a very worthy contender, that is Kamil Dragun. And let's see what's happening in this game. We're going to jump right into the analysis because we have quite a tense endgame, I have to say, an endgame with a lot of pieces still left on the board. Nevertheless, it does feel like is probably going to head towards a draw.
Yeah, it just seems like material's too reduced, right?
It does feel like it. So, of course, you see knight takes c5,
Yeah.
and I do believe that you probably have to take that bishop. If you don't, then you might have to worry about rook takes g3. That is a threat right now in the position. Knight takes c5, knight takes e5.
Actually,
and
I have a
bishop to
tricky,
c2,
actually. I have a
right?
tricky. Before we get into this, I have a
Sure.
tricky. What
Oh,
if I
you
go
do
knight
have it.
f2?
Knight f2. Okay, I see what you're trying to do. So if you go rook takes g3, now you go knight
Knight
to
e4.
e4. Very nice.
This works, right?
It does. Yeah, you take. Okay, I mean,
I'm not sure I'm winning, but
right.
I'm not
At
sure.
least you're an exchange up, and you can claim that you have some pull. It's something.
It's
for
something,
sure.
yeah.
For
I'm
sure.
not really sure I even claim I have a pull after rook g2, but I understand that this kind of works at least.
Rook g2, bishop c2, right? You
Ah,
can still.
I can still pressure. Then I
can
do
still
like
pressure,
this. Then I
yeah.
do like this. Then maybe knight e2 is kind of a tricky move.
And
He's actually
in
played
fact,
a third.
He played rook to f3 with, similar idea. Just try to create some immediate threats, attacking the pawn on f5. Rook
And
to h5
Played quickly, actually.
was the response. Now, the battle is obvious, right? We're battling this weakness against this weakness, right?
Yes.
Bishop to c2 most likely is going to come on the board and try to reinforce the threat of knight takes e5 followed by rook takes f5. How would a black defend against that? And we
I think
see
just
none
move
of the players actually are right now at the board.
One of those curious spectacles. I think you move the bishop back.
You
I
have
would
to.
think d6.
Probably d6. It's
Probably
defended. We like defended pieces. Also, the bishop on d6 is nicely controlling the knight, right?
It's a really nice geometrical motif, right? The
Yeah.
bishop, 3 squares away from the knight, controls all of its squares. And yeah, it feels like white is pressing for the advantage just because the king on f6 is a little bit weaker. But I don't think it's quite enough material to really put any pressure.
Right, so let's see, how do we do it? Knight to f2, this was the move that you were recommending with the obvious
idea of
to
knight
go
e4,
knight
right?
e4.
But it is a clumsy move in this move order, right?
It does feel like it, because
Even knight e5 cannot be worse for
knight
black.
e5, knight...
The knight take. Knight e4 I can take on e4 and just claim that this is going
I
to
was
be a draw.
thinking some crazy
Rook
ideas.
f5, knight e4, but I couldn't make it work. Rook takes e4, rook takes f5, rook takes f5.
Yeah.
I couldn't make that work
Yeah,
either.
yeah, it never works.
Even king e6, you're kind of wondering if I actually
King
get
king
anything.
d7, yeah.
Yeah, material is
much.
it's pretty reduced. It's pretty reduced, so we're going to call this a probable draw.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Alejandro, actually, these players are playing for quite a handsome prize fund as well. Let's take a look and see what we have in Group A. Well, that's a beautiful number right there. $22,000 total prize fund with $6,000 going to the victor of the event. $4,000 second place, completing the podium in third place with $3,000. Going all the way to $1,000 for last position. And in the B group, what do we have there, Alejandro?
It's almost half, but actually a couple of the prices are higher, higher than half.
That's quite
Second
interesting.
in particular
Yeah.
is for some reason not 2,000, it's 2,500. But I don't think the players in the B group are complaining. $14,000 for them, which is still quite a bit, especially where players of this level don't usually have the chance to win big open tournaments or play in the U.S. Chess Championship tournaments that have this higher prize funds. This certainly allows them to be able to travel and go to different events. And don't forget that we cover all of their expenses here for these events, so they're kind of free rolling.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Well, not all the expenses, I think.
Most of the expenses.
Most of the expenses, yes, absolutely. Now, what game should we focus on, Alejandro? Let's.
You know what the funny thing is? There was
You've been watching.
I've been watching, but there was one round where we finished commentary, and there was one game that was finished.
Yes.
And this one, we started commentary, and already like
four
four
of them.
four games are finished,
Yeah.
which is kind of funny. This is an unusual scenario. Actually, the B group is bringing it. I think Burke, Zhou Jianchao has some potential to sharpen.
Okay.
This is a very typical Najdorf type of positions in which the opposite colored bishops, instead of being boring and dull, actually make the game very exciting because both kings castled on different flanks mean that one side is clearly pressing against the other because your attack will be faster and your bishop whether it be the dark squared bishop on f6,
Yep.
cannot control the bishop on g4, or the other way around. The bishop on g4 cannot control the bishop on f6. So if black gets a good way to coordinate the queen and the bishop against the pawn on b2, it might spell disaster. But similarly, as you're drawing arrows, if white is able to coordinate light squared bishop and queen, that might spell disaster for black instead.
Get the bishop to d3. The bishop on g4 right now is not doing much outside of just simply defending the weaknesses, the pawn on h5 as well as the pawn on f3. Potentially, I would like to get that bishop all the way back to d3, as you can see pointed out by the arrows, and then follow it up with creating this battery along the b1 h7 diagonal. Put some pressure on h7. Now, as you were mentioning, Alejandro, this bishop on f6 is already nicely placed to create some havoc against the white king in case the b file opens up, or in case I manage to either get the queen to d4 or e5 and create this battery as well. Now, what's the next move? The question
let's analyze this concretely, right? The bishop on f6 is completely stuck. I mean, the only move it has is bishop e7, but we obviously don't want to play that. If the bishop goes anywhere, bishop e6 just wins.
Right.
That'll end the game. So the bishop is in kind of a pin. The queen.
So, for example, if you go bishop e5, try to attack the queen, bishop to e6, this is the idea. Fact is that you have to go to h8, and now this just allows us to deliver the checkmate. And h5 does have somewhat of a threat, potentially h6, right?
I like how our cameras are always hiding behind the wall.
Yes, we're hiding
like we're hiding behind the wall. Why do we have these
That's
shots?
the spy cam.
It is the spy cam, right?
I like it, the spy cam.
I like the spy cams. We're being told there are no cameras on that side of the room, so we actually rotated one, and we're doing the magic of television. So I agree with you.
I think this is a state. We have to keep this.
We have to keep it?
We have to keep the spy cam.
I think we have to keep the spy cam. So
We'll
what do
make
you
it a
play
new
here
feature.
with black? You do have the option of going for a relatively sad endgame with the move queen d4. Because, okay, white could insist and play the move queen c1 and prepare c3, but not really sure that's what you want to do. Nothing against it that I can see immediately. It doesn't feel right. But even the endgame
just doesn't feel right. Probably something like
b4, yeah, something like it. That doesn't feel right at all.
So he played a5 actually. None of this will happen. He does point towards the fact that he wants to play the move b4, and as you were mentioning, Alejandro, the very good way to close up this bishop and any potential against the white king is to play the move c3. Unfortunately, right now it does feel like c3 invites later on, maybe not immediately, but later on b4, and that's going to give me another hook for my offensive on the queen side.
That's very true. Yeah, I still even
like, for
considering
example,
that, I
this
would still play
rook b8,
c3.
Right. This was what I was thinking about.
And here's where we go, right? Because I'll play h6 and then we fight.
Yes, and now I go b4.
Wow. And this is what we were talking about, how the game just kind of sharpens very quickly, right?
Yeah. Something can happen very quickly for sure.
Yeah. What if I just give you a... What if I take, first of all? You're just taking back?
What are you going to take?
On g7.
Oh, on g7. Yeah, if you take on g7, I was actually thinking of taking here. I don't know if it works. It probably doesn't. But I just wanted to see how it goes.
Well, show me and the audience the mate after queen f6. I think I see it, but I'm not sure it
I don't know
works.
if it exists, because
Check.
I see a check and then you hide here.
Yeah, and then you go rook b1.
Right, you do go rook to b1.
But I think I run, right?
Take, you
Check,
give a check,
c2,
you run.
check,
You run.
up.
You keep running.
I think I
don't
keep
see
running,
it.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't see it.
I don't see it either.
Yeah.
So maybe in this particular version, white gets in just a tad bit faster, right?
You're escaping.
I'm escaping, which is a big deal. So maybe you have to take.
And if I go like this, then you hide on the other side.
On the other side. And because I always threaten checkmate in one, you don't have to...
No more check.
No more checks, right?
Yeah. And actually, this is an even easier version for you, because after rook to b1, you can take
With the rook. Yeah, king c, the c3 is defended.
c3 is defended. Yeah, so quite interesting. Okay, you said this, I said rook to b8, and you said h6.
h6, yeah.
Taking advantage that my rook is no longer putting some pressure and defending the bishop on f6.
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you're trying to do. Let's try to be a bit more cautious as black, even though... And this is why I felt like this rook to b8 is a double-edged sword.
Right.
All the time, because you are
Yeah, you abandoned the king's head a little bit, right?
Yeah, yeah. So let's try to go bishop to e5.
Yes, and then I still play bishop e6. I want to throw in this so I can take on g7 with check.
Okay, that's okay.
I'll take with check.
Then I'll get back with the bishop. How many moves you need is the question right now.
To mate you, right?
To mate me.
Because I don't know where I start, but I think I'll start with rook h1.
Sure. Do you have an immediate mating
I don't
threat?
think I have an immediate mate. I don't think
let's
rook
see
h7
b4.
works, but I'm not...
So I see a check.
But I don't
take
think
it.
it's more than that.
The thing is, if you go here,
You have
I
king
go up
h6, yeah. This is the only issue. If you want king h8, you actually get mated.
with queen h4.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will go up, and it does feel like any check that you're going to throw with the queen, and you need to throw it with the queen, because if you throw it with the bishop, then I get this extra square. And that might be, by the way, just a draw.
Just a draw.
Yeah.
And I think it is just a draw,
Bishop
actually.
to f5, and then you can repeat, and then I can go back, and then if I try to go here, how is this?
Yeah,
You
just
give
give a
one
check.
Where's
You'll
the-
give a lot of checks. I'll give you a mate on d7, bishop e6.
Yes. Check, 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 and mate.
Jaque mate!
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's just a draw.
I think so, yes. So this is just one of the many examples, and rook h7 obviously by no means forced.
Well, I mean, we're like 15 moves away from where we started the
Are
game.
you saying this is not a completely forced variation?
No. I don't think so. I don't think so. Otherwise, chess would be too easy. A5, and right now, John Burke is pondering his next decision, which, again, as you were mentioning, c3 could potentially be one of them. Another one that I'm seeing is just to play the move h6. Why not?
Right away, right?
Why not? You still cannot move bishop to g5
Yeah.
and try to take the pawn, because after bishop to e6, once again, you get
Just
checkmated.
mate.
So what's the deal with this move h6?
h6. I am wondering if you could play... No, I don't want to play g6.
No, I actually think he just wants to make a draw.
I think he just wants to play
go
b4.
b4.
Wait,
And
make
if you, well, if you take, I take with the queen, and then hopefully this endgame is a draw.
This endgame should be a draw, but...
Yes. Should be, but it's
But it's
still
still-
white that's
Yeah, it's
pressing.
still always white that's pressing a bit. Although here, no, right? Here's just a draw.
Yeah, and the thing is that you no longer have the move queen
And
to
c1,
c1
yeah,
because
bishop
I
takes
just
b-
simply take.
2.
And the problem is
Yeah.
if you take, I take with a check.
Check, right.
Otherwise, it would be a checkmate. All right.
Funny game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Funny game. And he did spend some time. How much? Let's see.
If you spend some time here, right?
24 minutes starting before this a5 move, and after a5, only
18:37,
minutes.
yeah,
6
6
minutes.
minutes.
Yeah, that's a long thing. Trying to figure things out, trying to see what the best course of action is. And right now, you see what the problem is for white. And if you would have this extra vector of attack with the rook coming to g1, then that would make it so much easier for you. Unfortunately, this queen is nicely placed on c5 and protects this against this rook to g1 move. Now, I'll just give you an example. Let's go something like this, rook to g1. Forget about the fact that you can take on a3. Now, you would get ideas such as check, 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 and checkmate, right? Another vector of attack. You don't have that. If you don't have that, then it just feels, visually at least, that black should be within equality range.
I'm not going to be as bold as you are to claim that. I think this is a position that would take me a long time to really decipher whether white is better or not. I would never think black is better here, ever.
No, absolutely
Yeah,
not.
never. Yeah,
Absolutely
that would
not.
never cross my mind. But white being better definitely, it definitely rings some tunes. Now, how to do it precisely is a different issue, right?
Also, why do you say that?
It's because
Why do you say black can never be better?
every time that you start your attack, you either do it by losing a tempo with rook b8, or you do it by allowing me to trade the queens.
Yeah.
And in either case, I have a solid idea. With the extra tempo, I'll mate you. Good idea. With the exchange of queens, I'm just not worse ever. So this is why I would think that in this particular position, white is not worse. He's played a kind of...
I'm much more
crafty
illiterate
move.
than you. I only see that this pawn is closer to the king. And And I say, okay, white has to be at least one tempo up. That's the way I see it.
Grandmaster chess at the St. Louis Chess Club. Yeah.
That's the way I see it. I see the pawn closer to the king.
Yeah, he actually
Don't do that at home, by the way.
He actually played a move that I would have never considered, actually, to be perfectly honest with you.
We haven't considered it. I'm looking through the analysis on chess, and this is a completely new move. Rook to d1. Interesting. I like it. I like it. Creates an immediate threat. Defend against rook takes d6 or queen takes d6. Probably queen takes d6. Bishop e5 once again, taking advantage of the fact that this doesn't work. Bishop to e6 would be a problem. How do you defend? Rook to d8, right?
I was thinking queen e5, actually.
Queen e5. Okay. Consequences. Always look at consequences.
Yes, well said.
The consequence of white's last move, rook to d1, is you no longer control the e5 square. So let's take advantage of it. I like it. Queen to e5. So I'm more or less forced at this point to take.
Yeah, I mean, the only option is queen c1,
But then bishop g5.
that's not much of an option.
So
Yeah, so you have to take.
this is a problem. You have to take.
I have to take with the bishop, because taking with the pawn is just so miserable.
Ugly.
It's ugly.
Very ugly. So you take. And now once again, it just feels like I have to immediately put some pressure if I want to claim that I have any sort of advantage. And now you do have this move, rook to b8.
You do have rook b8. It's not the end of the line.
If you follow it up with bishop to b7, then I go b4.
But even after a4 here, you're...
Right, so the idea being that if you take,
Even this after b3.
you take on b2. But you do have the move b3, which would probably be answered with bishop to b2.
Yeah, but black is not necessarily okay in that endgame.
No, no, no.
Even though you have a powerful protected pass pawn on a3, it's much more valuable to have the piece activity and
this pass pawn.
And that pass pawn.
That's the pass pawn.
Yeah, also the difference of the rooks, right?
Yeah.
Which makes me think that at some point maybe you throw in the move bishop e6. I don't know where, but like at some point you throw in bishop e6 just so that the king goes to h8
Right.
and not to f8.
Right, perhaps even earlier than this.
Like
Maybe.
Yes, I think here because you take both pawns.
So
Here and rook d5, and if you take on f3, I'll take on b5, threat and mate, and I take on a5. And that's just, I think, too many pawns. You haven't created a pass pawn yourself, and I already have one.
Yeah. Quick math, of course. And rook to b8.
And then bishop d7.
Bishop d7 once again. Now this is an improved version
Yeah.
with the king further away from the center. Very important. Well,
Yeah,
I guess queen to e5 might actually lead to a better endgame for white.
Yeah, I agree. So we start looking at other resources, but rook d1 does ask a very...
Pertinent question.
It's a pertinent question, yeah. How do you defend that pawn? It's an important pawn. It's not so important for black.
All right, let's play a normal move, right?
Yeah. I lost my game. Where'd it go? Oh, here it is. So rook d8. Now I think I can play something like h6, though queen e5 maybe is even... Well, there's no real difference, is there?
So what do you do right now? You can still play this move, bishop to e6.
I could play bishop e6, king h8, and rook d5, yeah.
Or you can start with h6
I could
if you
start
want.
with h6, yeah.
But rook d5, it's such a beautiful position, at least visually, because you have absolutely everything protected as white. Everything protects each other, more or less, right? Rook protecting this pawn on h5, bishop protecting the rook, the queen protecting the pawn. And on this side, unfortunately, you cannot get.
Yeah, black doesn't have some of the typical annoying ideas, like queen g1, queen c1, for example. That would be sometimes could be annoying. It just doesn't exist. Well, you can also take the queen on c1.
Oh. Good morning, St. Louis.
like 4 p.m.
Good morning, St. Louis at 4 p.m. That's okay.
Yeah, so we think actually that Burke's doing great in this position, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he has an advantage.
He has an advantage. We don't know how good it is.
A pleasant advantage.
He has a pretty pleasant advantage, yeah. We like his position.
19 minutes against 13 minutes, and we have a bunch of other games to look at. So let's take a look. Harutyunyan versus Antipov.
Well, I liked White's position a lot until I counted how many rooks he has.
He only has one rook.
He only has one rook, and his opponent has two.
But he does have the two bishops. He does have a clear target on e6.
Yeah.
On the other side, Black does have a very active rook on the first rank. Nevertheless, I'm looking at the positions. These two bishops are so scary.
Yeah, his bishops are pretty annoying, actually.
They're always extremely, extremely annoying and very scary. Also very difficult to play against from a practical perspective.
All right.
I like this move, rook to e8.
Yeah, rook e8 I think is a very normal, logical move. It removes the rook from the diagonal of the bishop. And in some ways it defends e6,
Yes.
right? All right. You definitely cannot take with the bishop, so you could consider taking with the rook, but the self-pin is pretty ugly.
I have a feeling something will happen.
Something will happen here. Some move like knight h6 might even finish the game immediately.
That's
Although you have bishop g5 here, never mind.
bishop to g4.
Yeah.
No, but you don't.
I don't, because check and I take on g4 with
You
check.
don't. Yeah, that's the
That's
problem.
a nice spot. So yeah, maybe knight h6 just wins, huh? Because if you allow king f7, it's game over. No way you survive that.
So you could try to get away.
No, but
with
it's all
this
this.
move.
But
Because now you don't have rook to a1.
but does it work? I take on g4.
It doesn't.
And king
And
f7.
unfortunately-
yeah.
But now I have rook e4.
Knight f6.
You take with the knight.
Yeah, I take with the knight.
Geometry, yes.
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah.
this, after knight to h6, so if I go bishop to h3, your point being that you're going to go king to f7. Is that correct? Is that your point?
That's a good point.
You're attacking this. If I move it, you're going to get this. And the only way to not lose something major immediately is to go bishop to g5, but this is just a losing endgame.
Yeah, it's rook b2 is
Rook
dead
to
lost.
b2,
Mhm.
that's another pawn, completely lost. All right.
So after rook e8, I don't think you can take on e6 at all. The bishop needs to
No.
move.
No.
And
no,
if the
no.
bishop moves, and black gets to hold on to his pawn on the e file,
That's a different story.
that's a very big different story, yeah.
All right, so let's see.
And it's actually taking with the rook on e6, so perhaps we're missing something, Cristian.
We must be, but maybe he actually missed knight to h6. I think he might have missed knight to h6.
No. This is a strong player. Come on.
It doesn't matter. He played it fast. He just assumed that rook e6 just works.
Maybe bishop f3. Is there some kind of magic where white plays bishop d5 and doesn't lose?
Yeah. That actually exists. Check.
Yeah.
But
But
once again,
let's start with check.
can
Actually,
I give a check
yeah.
first?
Let's give a check first.
Check. You go here.
And
Now I
then
go here. Now you go
And
here.
did this change anything? Not
So
sure.
annoying.
I'm not sure it did. Although,
So you have another check. But unfortunately, I don't think it does much. King to g3, no. Once again, you take, I go rook e1 now.
okay. Hold on.
All right,
But let's go back to
we'll go a bit slower.
a little bit slower. Here, go king f7,
Yes,
bishop d5,
yes.
and I'm wondering, can I play rook d1? I could also possibly have played rook a5 or rook d2 in the other variation, kind of ideas. The point is that if you move the rook, I take on d5, and then I take on e7, and then I'm just up a piece.
Correct.
And if you don't move the rook, then I'll probably just take on e7. If you move the bishop, I'll definitely take on e6.
And it's yeah, no, this looks
That's
good.
it, yeah?
This looks good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think this actually works. Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Perhaps he missed this.
Perhaps if you missed rook d1 or something, right?
Big moment right now. Rook takes e6, knight to h6. We do think that perhaps it actually finishes the game. Or at least gives black a decisive advantage.
Well,
Wait a minute.
yep.
No, but it doesn't work. Once again, you give a check first.
Yeah, I was looking at bishop f6, which controls a1, but it has the issue that after knight takes g4,
Yeah, we looked at
we looked at it. Yeah, we looked at it with this
And then
move
king
order.
f7,
Yeah, king f7. Yeah.
Yeah, and nothing works because unfortunately I take back with the knight.
With the knight, yeah. I don't see it. I have to say. Is it time to cheat? Because we just think it's winning, right?
Sure, let's cheat.
Let's cheat a little bit. So we're actually going to use the engine. We don't use it very often, and we are actually right.
Completely winning.
We're right.
Sometimes.
Sometimes we're right.
Occasionally.
Oh, it is the whole line. Bishop f3, rook a1, king f2, king f7, bishop d5, rook a1. Only like this. And we found it. We're good, guys. I'm actually very proud of this one.
Yeah. I mean, we saw it, and a 25-50 level player did not see it, and he played rook takes c6 immediately. Now let's see. Misha is definitely good when it comes to tactics. That's one of his strong points. But
would you consider him a tactical player? How would you consider Misha Antipov?
Oh,
you train him?
For sure. A tactical player,
Yeah?
Very, very tactical. He's quite complete, but when he's in shape, he's a complete player.
Yeah.
When he's not, he has some weaknesses that I'm not going to disclose to you, Alejandro, because I know you're taking notes.
I am definitely taking notes, but Misha has always been a very impressive player, actually qualifying to the super finals.
Oh, yeah.
Of the Russian Championship. Was it 2021 or 2020?
2020, I think.
2020. And very unfortunate that he actually had to withdraw, like the most unlucky time to get COVID.
Because of COVID? Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing. He fluctuates a lot.
Yeah.
He can go, he was before over 2,600 a few years back, and then he dropped back to 2,550. Now he was also a couple of years ago, and even last year he was over 2,600, 2,620, 2,625, and now he's back to 2,590. That's the thing. He fluctuates a lot. He can win 20 rating points in an event against the strongest players on the planet. He can lose 20 ratings in one event against 2,500s. He's that type of player. And I'll tell you a funny story about him.
All right.
We actually played this online collegiate competition.
Okay.
If you remember correctly. And if I'm not mistaken, exactly in the finals against you.
Okay.
Against St. Louis University.
Okay.
Or in the qualifier, I don't remember, but it was quite important that he played.
Yeah.
His son was born. And he was playing from the taxi, on his phone, from the taxi, and he got to the hospital, and his son was born while he was getting a medal. So, you know, he has full commitment to the team, and I appreciate that.
That is commitment and a half, man. I would have just given him the week off.
That is full commitment to the team. No,
you gotta play. You
have to play.
You gotta make those moves, man.
Those were World Championship medals, you know, that we got that time.
Yeah, that was a good weekend. We both got our World Championship medals.
Yeah, good collegiate weekend.
You guys won the Blitz and we won the Rapid, right? Or was it the other way around?
Yeah. We won the Blitz. We won the Blitz and you guys Rapid. Quite a big. Wait, by the way, do we have any other? No, there's no other way. Knight to h2. You can also start with rook to a1, though it doesn't feel like it's cleaner.
Actually, it is cleaner. I like rook a1 first because knight h6 always comes with check now. Sorry, knight takes g4. The threat of knight h6 comes with check, which is knight takes g4. So I don't have to analyze, for example, the move bishop f6 anymore.
Right.
Or bishop anywhere, really.
Right.
The dark squared bishop can't move. You really do have to move this
and by
light
the way,
squared bishop.
Sometimes this is such a difficult decision to make. You see two good-looking moves. You see that they're probably ending up in the same spot with you completely winning. But you start doubting yourself, and you don't know which one to choose, right? And actually, we are looking at the engine; they're identical.
Yeah, they are.
In terms of assessment.
In terms of assessment, they're identical. Yeah, you spent a little bit of time. I think the hard part of the combination is finding the move rook d1.
Oh yeah.
And now that we are cheating, I was wondering why the move rook somewhere else wouldn't work. Like for example, let's say that I play the move knight h6, bishop f3, and let's say I don't throw in this check, and I just go immediately for the move king f7.
No, this was...
Yeah, king f7, bishop d5, and then rook d2. What is the difference?
Rook d2 now?
Well, yeah, because if you
have some bishop g5, right?
Bishop g5, rook
no, bishop b4.
What?
Rook to e1.
But what if I take on
And now the bishop defends.
Ah.
That's the reason why not bishop g5 and bishop b4.
Yeah, you want to put it on a light square so the bishop can't attack the rook.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
There's some easy things to miss.
There's some easy things to miss. Yeah, absolutely. Knight h6 played. Your students found it. I don't think he was ever going to miss it.
No.
No. Knight h6 is a great move.
Let's see.
This one looks over, I think.
If he finds rook to d1, yes. Let's see what Haru the Union
But he's played knight h6.
Knight to h6.
I don't think you play knight h6 without finding
without
rook d1.
seeing rook to d1. Yeah, and perhaps this is the moment when Haru the Union is starting to understand that he might have slipped in this one.
Yeah, it's been a tough tournament for him. Only on 1.5 points out of 5.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a tough tournament for, and I think bishop to f3 is on the board.
It's on the board. So he has to play...
King to f...
I assume rook a1 is the same.
Rook a1 first, yeah.
Does it matter? No, it cannot possibly matter here, right? King f7 attacks both of your pieces.
But then bishop d5?
Then rook a1. Oh, but then rook e1. Yes.
Rook
what am I
E1.
doing?
No,
That's
no.
check. It's almost made, actually.
It matters.
Yeah, it matters. You have to play rook a1 first. And there it goes. Rook a1 first. So that the rook on d1 is out of reach for that bishop on e7.
And I think he saw it. Yeah, he
Yeah.
saw it. Yeah, when he sees it, he generally doesn't miss.
Yeah, we're gonna keep on this one because it might be coming close to the end of the game, and I have a feeling
After
that
rook d1, he might just
resign. Because I saw Tigran look at his position at some point, put his hands on his head, like the typical telltale.
Yeah.
I saw a line where I'm losing. What am I doing against it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they're gonna go straight into it.
Let's see, king to f7.
Oh, we caught this one at a good time actually.
We did.
Yeah, and I think king f7 is coming on the board.
Excuse me. And by the way, while we were discussing this spectacular game, we do have a result, and that is Yangyi versus Sam Sevian, which did finish in a draw.
Yeah, not the most exciting fight, unfortunately, from the position that we left it on. Too many pieces just got traded.
Yeah, king to f7, by the way, on the board. In that one, and we're going to return. And let's see if bishop to d5 will immediately be played. At this point, you have to at least pretend that you still have a good position as white. You probably saw rook to d1, and by the way, that is not the game that we see on the main board right now. Let's go back to Tigran versus Mishra.
Yep.
You have to pretend at this point that bishop to d5.
You play it quickly because there's literally no other move, right? Everything else just blunders the bishop on e7 or the rook, I guess.
Yes.
So you're pretty much, you're confined to playing that.
Yeah,
bishop d5 played. And the thing is, black's actually, I think, in a terrible position if you don't have the move rook d1.
No, that's
yeah, rook d1 is
true.
pretty forced, and rook d1 played instantly, and this is game over.
It's funny, rook to a5 is also a move, right?
But then you go bishop
to
b4,
b4,
and this is the thing, you can't have, I was wondering about that earlier, why can't I go rook a5 or rook d2, but it's the whole thing.
Have the rook on a dark square.
On a dark square, the bishop would retreat, it would attack the rook, and then you capture it.
Yep.
And then actually white ends up a 0 because they are up a pawn.
No, he found the right configuration. Right now he's just going to end up in a piece up endgame in which I think it's pretty much hopeless.
I don't think so. I think white just resigns here.
Yeah. I think that the best thing you can do is something along the lines of rook to e3 and try to put some pressure. Yeah.
I mean, you can play bishop g5. I think technically it's the best you can do. But
bishop g5?
you only lose a.
Yeah, but the problem is that I take on d5.
Well, I take on e6 first.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. You're down the
exchange. Just going to go to the b file, either from b1 or b6.
It really does not matter. It's just completely hopeless, which is why we think that he might just resign.
Yeah.
All right, very nice.
No, absolutely. All right. Should we stay with this one? Do we expect a resignation, or he's probably going to
Depends. How much time does he have?
13 minutes.
Let's move on.
All right.
He might suffer there for a little bit before he resigns.
Let's move on. Yeah,
he knows he's dead. We've all been there.
He's dejected about the situation on the board right now. We're going to move on.
Tough tournament for him, actually.
Very difficult tournament for him, but that is the risk you're taking when you're going into this type of events, because you don't get any easy rounds.
Yeah, that's the thing about these events, right? There's no easy rounds. I've played a couple of these myself, and they really feel very different from open events where you lose a game, especially when you lose twice in a row. When you lose twice in a row in an open tournament, I mean, you're pretty much guaranteed as a grandmaster to
An easier pairing.
an easy pairing, a bounce back pairing,
Yes.
a pairing that you expect to win with white, black, gray, green, blue, whatever they put in front of you. You're expected to crush your opponent. But here, you lose 2 games in a row, and you're probably playing somebody higher rated than you.
Misha Antipov.
I mean, you get Misha Antipov, you get Kamil Dragun,
Yeah.
you get. There's no easy pairings.
Yeah.
It's tough to recover. It takes a lot of mental fortitude to play all of these events.
I'm telling you, I mean, this was my situation 3 years ago, actually. In the last invitational that I played, I only scored like 3 out of 9, and it was just a disaster of a tournament for me, one of the worst tournaments I had in my life. But that was the feeling that I was getting.
Yeah.
I was losing, and then a lot of pressure was coming next round.
Right.
With the white, with the black pieces, and when you start losing 1, 2 games, 3 games in a row, then your confidence level just plummets.
And people
that's
immediately
usually-
they sense it.
Yeah.
They're like,
Yeah.
this is the fish. This is the
Yeah.
guy that's playing bad.
Yeah.
This guy just got lucky, but he's not playing well.
Yeah.
And people really do notice this during the events. They
Oh, for sure.
target you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, the sharks definitely smell the blood. Knight to c6. Oh, there you go, the dancing.
Well, we have a great question on Twitch. Why are all the most handsome chess commentators in St. Louis?
That's why you started dancing. I see Alejandro. Very good, very good.
All right. Well, we're gonna move out of this one, and let's go then to something we haven't seen.
And by the way, we have the same color shirt for today. We finally matched.
We try not to match every day, but we
it
finally
took us
matched,
quite a few rounds, but finally we
got it.
matched. Excellent,
Very good.
excellent. All right,
Style too.
getting back to the games. To the business at hand, Alejandro. That's why we get
Very
here.
well said. Very well said.
All right. Burke versus Zhou. Oh, by the way.
Yeah, they're going straight into this, except that John Burke decided not to take on a5. We also considered the move a4
Yes.
before we left this game.
A4 was the first instinct.
Yeah, it was the first instant. We thought the rook a5 was also good. And notice that Burke also, like we said, took the time to give this check.
Right.
Took the time to give this check on e6, forced this king to h8, and then put the rook on d5,
Correct.
which gives him the best version of this endgame.
Give it when the rook is still on f8.
Yes.
Because from g8, if you do allow the rook to go to b8 first, then the king can go to f8.
And now the issue, one of the main issues for black in this position is how do you get the king back? You could play a move like g6, but then you give up on creating a pass pawn on the king side because the bishop can just cement f3 from g4. You really don't want to do that. But if you don't play the move g6 at any point, you're just not getting your king into the game.
Exactly. So we got all the way to this position, and rook to a8 just came on the board, of course, the natural move, defending the pawn on a5. And this is, by the way, what we were discussing, right? We considered this move, rook takes a5, because it creates immediately a passed pawn for white, also for black. But it does feel like the pawn on a3, not necessarily a liability from black's perspective, but a pawn that needs to be protected. More resources need to be allocated to the defense of that pawn right now, because after king to a2, and it just feels like...
Yeah, let's be honest, it's not going anywhere.
No, the pawn on
stays-
a3 is not going anywhere. The problem is the bishop on b2 is not really helping black defend against the avalanche of pawns that is coming his way.
Yeah.
Because b4 at some point, in one shape or another, I will make it work.
You'll make it work. You'll play like bishop b5, or you'll play rook a4, even like b4 immediately.
Yes.
You have to calculate. I mean, before immediately, maybe bishop c3. But,
Right.
But, you'll go
So
king
let's start
a2.
with king to a2 first,
Right, there's still no good way of bringing the king. Even here, I would consider playing g6, h6. Yes, I will lose h6, but the moment you pick that up, I'll pick up a3. And then I'll just...
It's all about the b pawn.
And that's all about the b pawn.
It's all about the b pawn.
But
All right.
what he's done is also very tempting. He's played the move bishop c6, attacks the rook. The rook has a very uncomfortable decision.
Okay.
Uh,
So let's say I continue, rook a7.
yeah, the thing about a move like rook a7 is that even the stupid move rook b5 is not so easy to make. But f4, I think, is actually just winning. And then, yeah.
Yep.
That attacks two things. And if the bishop goes anywhere else, then of course d6 is hanging.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
So you have to keep contact with the bishop, right?
But even,
Because right now-
even f4
wait,
is strong. F4 is very strong.
Therefore I go here, right?
And rook f5. And
now
then
I go
G6 attacks the rook, yes.
I looked at, actually, I calculated from afar this line, and take, and H6, and you are not forced because you have King G8. That's the problem. Yeah. So Rook A6, we think it's actually
I think Rook A6
more or
is
less
forced, yeah.
If you don't go Rook A6, you're in trouble.
Yeah, and just to mention that Rook C8, Rook takes A5 doesn't work for black.
Which one?
Rook C8 instead of Rook A6.
Oh.
Because I just take.
Yes,
and
yes.
You have issues.
And actually, Rook to A6. And I see Zhou actually shaking his head right now. What do you do after Rook to B5?
I think you have to go King G8. I think you have to put on your
running shoes.
Your running shoes. But it's very miserable because Bishop D5, Rook B7 just for an Bishop D5, Rook B7 is extremely miserable for black. You have no moves.
Exactly.
Wow, this is. Oh my God, that rook. That rook is actually going to get picked up by King A2, B3, C4, B5.
Oh,
I actually don't think I'm kidding. I don't see how to defend it.
Well, you can go Bishop B4 and try to save it like this. I think it's the only way, in fact.
Ah, you do, right?
And I have Rook A7 as well. But
Rook A7 is important, actually. I forgot about this move.
it is a bit miserable.
And he has played the move Rook A6.
Rook to A6, but he's not happy. I can tell you that much.
I mean, nobody's happy
You can
with
see
this
it on
position.
his face.
Nobody's happy with this position. Yeah, we give Burke huge winning chances here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge practical chance.
Huge practical chance. Even if the computer, we don't have no idea what the computer says. But just from a practical point of view, it looks nasty. Nasty to play this position.
Yeah, yeah. So many weaknesses. The pawn on A5, the rook, the bishop
king.
doesn't really come in.
I mean, the king's a weakness.
Soon. The king.
The king is a
big
weakness,
problem.
yeah.
Yes, yes. That is the big problem in the position. And speaking of the king, okay. No, I cannot do that. So rook to B5, I was trying to make something like G5 or G6 work, but...
The thing about G6 or G5 is that I think I will go H6.
Go H6,
yeah.
Especially G6.
Especially
I
in
was
G6.
G5, H6, and maybe like this.
Yeah, but this is just a better version for me because I can go check immediately,
Yeah.
King F8. No, Bishop D5, I think.
Bishop D5.
Bishop
yeah.
D5 to keep the king restrained, and then Rook B7, and
Yeah.
I'll take, and this is obviously winning.
Yeah. No, this is not good news for Zhou Jianchao.
No, this looks like Burke has excellent winning chances. Any updates in the matchup of the day? Ali Marandi against Dragun. Well, they're repeating right now, so JJ has the option of going knight D3, King F6 with some kind of weird draw.
So after rook to E1, knight to C6, knight to D3, king to F6, getting off the pin.
Yeah.
Knight to F2, threatening some sort of pin attacks with knight to E4 followed by knight to C5, targeting the pawn on B7. You have to defend against that. And there we go. Knight to D3, if he wants it.
Would be a draw. Yeah, and we didn't see much, right? We thought JJ has some pressing chances, but material's pretty reduced.
It is, at the same time, it is him that is putting the,
absolutely.
putting the pressure.
And he's actually chosen something else. So he wants to continue the game. He's played the move A3. Makes sense to me. I think he can take the perpetual whenever he wants it. He's removing both rook b4 and knight b4 as ideas. He's giving king some flight square on A2. And it passes the move, right? It's your move, sir. Make something that doesn't worsen your position. Good luck.
Well, this is what I was looking at, right? Because I'm trying to weaken the control of your position. For example, rook to b3 was a tempting option. Mostly for the fact that once you play the move b6, the knight on c6 doesn't have an outpost.
Speaking of this, Antipov has won that game. We did expect resignation at the moment that we left off that game, and it didn't quite happen there, but it was close enough.
No, absolutely. Quite an important game for him. For the last 3 rounds or so, he's been on the back foot.
Harutyunyan,
He's been, no, actually, Mikhail Antipov.
Oh, sorry.
He's been defending worse positions and barely surviving. Let's not forget the game yesterday against Brandon Jacobson. That rook versus rook and 3 pawns.
Somehow he survived that, right?
Zhou Jianchao, piece down.
Oh, piece down.
Barely survived.
That's right. Yeah.
He's
been down a piece in 2 games in a row and survived both
Exactly.
of them. That's funny.
So this is a big break for him right now.
That's a
win
good one.
with the black pieces.
How does that put him in the standings? It goes to
+1.
+1?
He's going to +1. He was somewhere in the middle of the standings with 50%. So I would assume he's getting right now closer to the leading pack.
It's a tight group. We've had some summer classics and spring classics where one player kind of runs away with it. One of them was yours, where you started with 5 out of 5.
Yes.
But there are other classics in which the field just keeps itself more compact. Happens sometimes, happens in others.
Yep.
Even in the Singfield Cup, we've had tournaments where they're very compact and some tournaments where Fabiano goes 7-0. So it does happen at all levels of chess. But in this one, this particular B group is very compact. +1 is good enough to challenge for the leadership.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, +1 is a very decent score right now. All right. So we have 2 pending games in this one, and we've just looked at them.
We just looked at them, so we have to go to the A group.
Oparin versus
Mishra.
Mishra.
It's the only thing left, right? On the A group. Because
Yes.
we have a draw, Gledura Hakobyan, a draw between Yangyi and Sevian, and a draw between Smirin and Nikolas Theodorou.
This is one
And
of
this
those
one-
funny end games where it feels like white has all the space, but there's not much to do with it. Not much to do with it.
It doesn't seem like black's really suffering that much here.
No.
I mean,
don't
white's
think-
better,
Right,
but-
right.
but how much better?
Not much. And the main point, at least the way I see it right now, and that's what I believe he played h6 for, is that if you do take and try to invade on g7, pick up this guy, I even have this move.
That's an annoying move.
Yeah. To just like follow your.
That
your
is an
rook
annoying
around.
move, huh?
Yeah, and just
Yeah.
kick you out. You cannot take the
You
pawn
cannot
on
take
h6.
that.
and
You
don't-
cannot even go to h7. You know,
That's the thing. You don't need to calculate anything.
Yeah.
You're seeking f8, the rook has to go back, you go back to e7, and we make a draw.
I think that's it. Yeah, this doesn't seem very promising.
No, h6 right now, it does feel like Grigoriy Oparin is trying to find his last attempts in the position to destabilize black's defense.
Mishra keeps impressing. He just a very solid tournament so
He is.
far. I mean, he won his game where he was presented chances, found chances against Gledura yesterday. Actually, wasn't able to finish that game off.
The only game he was worse in was the game between him and Bjerre, where he
Oh
got
yeah,
lucky.
he got very
got
lucky
lucky.
on that one. He got very lucky on that one, but outside of that, a very clean performance so far by Abhi just drawing Oparin so cleanly is amazing.
Absolutely. And as we are getting ready to get Mikhail Antipov to go for an interview right now, let's go back, in fact, to the B group. And I'm going to take a peek at this game between John Burke and Zhou Jianchao, because we were looking at this position and we gave John Burke great chances to break through, and it does seem like he's following the variations that we were discussing. Rook to b5, threatening checkmate on b8, but as we go along and we will get into the midst of this position, we do have a victor of today's round, Mikhail Antipov. Mikhail, welcome to the show.
Finally.
Finally, back to the show. We were just discussing, you had quite a difficult time in the last 2 rounds. You were down a piece against Brandon Jacobson yesterday, also against Zhou Jianchao, but finally you broke through. How does that feel?
It's a big surprise to finally win a game. I was watching it for almost 2 tournaments, because in Spring Chess Classic I didn't manage to win any single game, and I lost 5, so it was extremely disappointing. Also, like as you mentioned, I had some troubles in previous rounds, and to be honest, when I played white against Zhou Jianchao, I thought that I'm winning after this sacrifices. I missed bishop f5 idea for him. Because if he does not go bishop f5, it's quite scary already. And then, I mean, queen a5 was extremely strong idea for him.
Yeah.
So it was small luck for me
Now,
that I managed to get a draw. But
in that one, and we're not going to pull that game up, but just to discuss it, did you know that you have some chances of equality once he got that pawn on f6, queen to f8, just defended everything? Did you feel like it's a draw, or were you just as surprised as us that it was actually a draw?
it's quite funny, but I didn't even consider that I can be worse. When
You did not consider
when my rook
that you
g6, queen h5, what is? I mean, I calculated this line because instead of queen a5, he could go queen d8.
Yes.
Then I go queen c3, f6, and we
Yes.
get more or less the same type of position. I was thinking about it for like 1 minute, and I thought, I mean, his queen is paralyzed.
Wow.
I always have this idea, so probably it should be a draw.
Wow. All right. But take us through today's round and the critical moments of today's round.
Yes, sure. I think the most interesting part is the opening, because I decided to go for Maret's line, which is considered to be quite scary for black.
D4,
but
take on
of
D4.
course white should know it quite well. For example, my opponent play bishop e2, which is considered one of the main lines. F3 is also possible to have almost the same position as we had in the game, like knight d4, queen d4, bishop g7, bishop e3, castle, queen d2. And now the idea is that after a5, white can go, for example, as a b3 or knight a4. So the point is that in this case, pawn on e4 is protected.
Right.
And like my main idea is also possible. A5, f4 is the main idea of this line, but it's much more tricky in this case. Because bishop e2 is, I mean, it's a good move anyway,
Yes.
but
Is the main
but still it's just a bit different.
Right.
So he played queen d2.
So now after a5, you no longer have
because
a way to stop a4.
Yeah, and b3 is also not working because of knight e4 and rook on e1 is hanging.
Yes. So he played f3,
Yeah,
and finally
a4.
got a4 in. Rook
I
to
had this
d1.
position several times in my lifetime.
And we see
remember-
actually your game here against Greenberg.
I
You played
a
bishop
lot
to
of
e6.
games. Yeah, and also when I played against Caruana in this line, he played king f2 instead of rook b1. I think it was quite an interesting line.
Oh, yeah. Caruana Antipov, 2017.
Yes, it's quite tricky because now, for example, if I go queen a5, rook ac1, bishop e6, main idea of the line that after knight d5, I cannot take on d2 because he takes on e7, and I'm down a pawn.
Right.
And like to explain, why do we need to play king f2? Why not castle?
Because queen takes d2 doesn't come with check.
No, white can castle
Oh,
instead of king f2.
why?
It's a bit tricky, as I said,
Yes.
because now queen a5 works, it's the main line, rook c1, bishop e6, and now knight d5 is no longer working because I can take on d2, knight e7, king h8, bishop d2, and surprisingly blacks survive and even play for an advantage after rook f e8, knight d5, knight takes d5, c takes d5, bishop takes, and after bishop b5, we have rook e5 move. So it's
Yeah,
a theory,
very
but
nice.
it's
This
like
is some sort of theory, yeah?
it's black are
So now
about
if you
to
take, that's two
position is-
bishops, and if you go bishop to c3,
bishop a2, it's even worse for white already because I have really strong bishops. b2 is a serious weakness.
excellent. He probably was aware of this, and he played this move knight to b5, knight to d7, following this game against you and Greenberg. Queen to a5, and you exchanged knight to c7. Were you still within your theoretical knowledge at this point?
I just know that knight b5 is actually not a serious threat for black because the problem that even if I take on e6, they cannot fight for an advantage. I have really good pieces, and his bishop on e2 is always weak.
Right.
So I played this position several times in Blitz and Rapid, and suddenly if white are not playing accurately and they try to pretend that they're playing for an advantage, they usually just lose.
Right.
And that's actually what happens all the time.
Right. So when did you feel like he made the big mistake in this position?
To be honest, I was surprised of move f4 because
f4 all the way here, yeah?
I'm not sure if it's bad for white, but I was just surprised why he needs to go for it. Because
Seems like it was played in some sort of a correspondence game, 2018.
because after knight f6, I mean, at least he has some problems already.
Right.
So, I mean, if you cannot, if you can just play and not sacrifice a pawn, why do you need to?
Yeah, it seems like rook fe1 was played in that game. But he played the move e5, and this does seem to be losing a pawn. Take, rook to a2, immediately targeting the bishop on e2.
Yeah, and suddenly I was surprised that this idea works with b3, rook e1, because firstly I considered that I just take an exchange, and during the game I was shocked
With
that
bishop
he could play bishop f3 here, and I was not sure if I can put some serious pressure, because I think that I should take.
Yes. Bishop to f3 seems to have been the best move in the position.
It makes sense, because now my both pawns on b7, e6 are hanging, and probably I can try to play for an advantage. I don't exactly remember what I wanted to do.
But most likely white has enough for equality, some sort of a dynamic equality.
Yes, sure.
Cool. And we got to this point, and he almost
I think when-
immediately played rook takes
I think
e6.
when he played bishop g4, he just blundered it, because bishop g4 makes sense only if you take on e6.
Right.
I think that I'm not sure what exactly he missed, But for example, if I go knight h6,
Perhaps rook to d1, right?
yes, maybe he missed
the
rook f1 because if I go knight h6, for example, bishop f3,
Yes.
in this position king f7 is not working.
Correct.
Because you go bishop d5,
Correct.
rook d2, and suddenly
You cannot go rook to a1 because of rook
yes.
to d1.
And if I go rook d2 with exactly the same idea, he has moved bishop b4 or bishop
Yes.
g5.
Yes.
It's quite surprising, but probably white survives.
Yeah, and right now the bishop actually protects the rook on e1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We were actually looking at this line. We were trying to understand what's happening, and we finally got to what you played in the game as well. When did you spot it? When did you spot this whole tactic, whole sequence?
When I played knight f7,
All the way from knight to f7.
so I was just considered if I need to go knight f7 because I didn't like bishop f3
Oh, wow.
instead of bishop g4.
Quite
And
a
I
lot
thought
of moves ago. Misha, big victory for you with the black pieces. Who do you have tomorrow?
Tomorrow I think I'm playing against you.
You. That's going to be actually a very difficult game. Not you, Yangyi, but Christopher Yu. We do have, I was a bit confused. We do have a couple of Yus in the event. Big game for you tomorrow with the white pieces. We'll let you go, get some rest, get some preparation in, and we'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Awesome. Perfect. And as we are getting ready to check the other games as well, I do come all the time back to this endgame between John Burke and Zhou Jianchao because it's such an intriguing endgame. It just feels like white is so close to a victory in this one. I still don't see it. I still understand there's only one weakness that we're playing against right now. It feels like the rook on a6 is that weakness in a black's position, and I don't see the breakthrough. Nevertheless, it does feel like white is somehow and somewhat close to finding that final blow. Alejandro, welcome back.
Welcome. Yeah, it really feels like that. This rook is so stuck. I don't think that there is necessarily a killing blow right now, but it comes so close, right? You're so close to finding one that you really want to look for it.
Yeah.
I'm surprised about the previous move by black, the move h6.
We were discussing bishop to
Yeah, we
d4.
were discussing bishop d4 here with the idea of rook a7 and rook b6, trying to get this rook from a6 into a more manageable position.
Yeah.
But he's not played it. He's actually thinking that he has the time to play h6, which, by the way, is not a move that I would have thought is in black's plans.
Right. Because you're creating even more weaknesses on the light squares.
Yeah, and also it's even more difficult to create a passed pawn, right? In any scenario in which somehow there becomes a pawn race, creating a passed pawn with this particular configuration it's as hard as it gets.
No. Well, you will have to sacrifice a pawn.
You'll have to sacrifice, but in the case of pawn races, because the pawn is all the way back on g7 and h6, I mean, I'll queen my own g pawn, right?
Yeah.
So...
No, he basically just says that I have at least one extra tempi.
Yeah.
Now,
Which, is it true or not? We're about to see.
it could be.
It could also not be, right?
Well, imagine this. The king already on b3. I think this
No, the
is
king
game
on
over.
I think if white were to move king b3, I think you actually win by force, right?
Yeah, because after bishop to d4,
I think
king
it's
to
just
c4,
over.
and this is pretty much
game over. Which starts to beg the question: how bad is the position for black here after bishop d4? He's played bishop d4, and I was wondering. I don't
You
think
have
it
to play
works.
bishop d4.
I don't think it works, but I was even thinking of the move c3. That's how controlled black is in this position.
To give up a pawn like this.
Yeah, just for the tempo.
Just to get the tempo in.
And then you have to get this bishop to this diagonal to save the rook. And the thing is that here it couldn't find, although, let's keep going, let's keep going.
How
do we feel about this endgame?
How is this endgame? Yeah, that's a good question.
It's not so clear.
So let's see.
Yeah, you're going to have to give up the bishop for sure. But
goes
perhaps...
to b7. You go here, yeah?
Yeah, perhaps you still have enough as black.
Are you threatening g6? Probably. That's the problem. I think you're just threatening g6.
Threatening g6. At some point I'll be able to...
I'm not in time, no. So g6, you take.
Yeah.
Sure, you will. But I don't think this is enough.
This cannot be enough, yeah.
Be careful not to,
Not to, not to
somehow,
lose this game,
yeah. To get this bishop blocked on this diagonal. Okay, yeah, no, it seems like he's still within margins after the move c3 and that pawn sacrifice. Do we
Yes.
have anything? By the way, white doesn't have to
No,
sacrifice.
no, no. We were just trying to figure out if we could like force the win, right? Which
Yeah.
This is the type of position this is, where you're starting to figure out if the immediate killing blow works, and it's responsible to calculate these things, because if the immediate killing blow works there, you want to finish the game off when it's due, not not afterwards.
I have a funny idea.
Let's say you're funny.
So I go here,
All right, I have no choice.
and now I go here.
And the difference is that if I play rook a7 here,
Now I go king c4. I have
and,
my rook on f7, and I take with check.
and how do we
So
feel
take,
about this?
take. I have a feeling this
G6.
has to be
Good for black, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, but really,
has to be. Not sure. Yeah, that h pawn is going.
the h pawn. This is the one way where like the
It's-
h pawn
it's
actually
really
managed to
going.
become passed, right?
Yeah, I was happy that my king gets fast there, but
Yeah,
I
I
actually
think that if the pawn was on g4, we could seriously consider this. But
you see, you brainwashed me. You told me that black has absolutely no way
I
in
tricked
any
you.
pawn races to create.
tricked you. But it's not a pawn
passed
race. There's like
pawn.
literally no pawns
There's
for
no
white.
way to
There's
create a
literally
pass
no pawns.
pawn. And then g6 comes and I lose the game.
There's 0 pass pawns by white. This is not a
You
pawn
gave
race.
such a beautiful speech
You like my
about how
speech?
bad this h6 move is. And in fact, it's not
great
that bad.
speech. It was a great speech.
I liked it. All right.
All right, so we're going to have to find a different way. I mean, I still think king b3 is a very logical move. The thing is, do I want to play it before or after I throw in the check? Because here I don't want to trade rooks. I don't want to allow your king to come out. And rook b5 doesn't seem to fully do the trick. So I'm going to have to find something more clever. That being said, oh yeah, you still have d8 for the bishop, right?
That's the problem. Yeah,
I started to think about whether this endgame is lost.
Yeah, you still
But
have
I think
d8.
you hold on, right?
Even though, look at black to move. There's no move. You're going to lose something.
Yeah, black to move actually you
So,
lose something.
That's
You lose something, but you might not lose the game, right?
right. So
That's
you
the-
do
that's
give
the
up this
thing.
pawn, right?
Yeah, you give up this
You're
pawn.
going to go king e8,
Something like that.
and now you just stay like this. This is an easy draw, actually.
I think so.
Yeah, easy draw. Easy draw. Yeah. You
I
give
don't know
up.
how easy, but it's a draw.
It's probably easy. I mean, there is no way to create anything, I think. Yeah, I don't see a way to create anything.
Really? You go king c6?
That's
But I think you just stay.
first
right?
of all.
I think you
I
have
can
to
probably
stay.
take.
No, I don't
right?
think you can take. I think here I just win. I go king b6 or king b5 or whatever. And
But
when
you
you
don't
play
win.
bishop c3, I play bishop b3.
No, but I go b3 first. You
But
take
this is
it
what
and
I
go
was
here.
wondering. But this is an easy draw, right?
I
Yeah,
think
this should be
so.
easy enough.
I think so. You go here. That's I get it.
Yeah.
I'll put my bishop on d8, but even this.
Yeah, with a little bit of care. Probably bishop c7, just to be accurate.
No. I don't need that. All I need is to get my king to b8. And I'm getting my king to b8.
Yeah.
If you would have the bishop here, you could give a check, and that would maybe be a problem.
Yeah. That's true.
But if I manage to get the king to b8 on the dark square, then
Yeah,
I
it should
have
be a draw.
It's a draw.
All right, so we really don't want to trade rooks as white. It doesn't seem to be enough,
Yeah.
which means we have to search for another path. And there's plenty of options. There's rook f7, rook f4. There's even like immediately playing rook d7. The rook d7, king e8. I don't know why I did that.
And by the way, he just made
Move
time
40.
control.
So here Burke will think for a while before making a decision.
I think so too.
Yeah.
All right, so Ali Marandi, lots of things have changed, and actually Ali Marandi is a pawn up.
Wait, what happened?
Let's see. All right, so we left it off after this move a3, a5, knight to d3.
And not king f6, but king d6. That's surprising.
Again, that's the problem. Well, after a3, you have these ideas of knight to c5, right?
Which were not available before, that's right.
Why were they not available before?
They were available, but you don't have a threat, because knight takes b7, rook b4.
Ah, yeah, that's the problem. But now with
Now
the
with the
b4
pawn
square
a3,
controlled,
it's covered, yeah.
you're in trouble.
I'm going to assume that what we said is true.
Yeah.
King d6 takes, and we get into this endgame where if black doesn't have an immediate way to take on g3, which I don't think he does.
No, you go here, I go here.
Yeah. There are some serious winning chances here. No more than that.
No, but this is quite serious, I have to say.
Yeah, it's serious. I wonder how real, though. Let's say I go knight c4.
Sure.
Check, rook c3. I'm not really sure what the difference
Let's go rook
is.
c3.
And here I'll go like d5.
Yeah, I understand. You're close.
Yeah, black is close to making a draw. The idea is that I'm going to be active enough to prevent you from doing this. That's the question, right? Am I actually active enough?
I think you're already in trouble.
I might be. I'm not saying I'm not. I really might be.
Yeah, because knight d2, I go king c1, and now I have a big threat.
Yeah, you have a huge threat.
And the knight is kind of dominated.
Yeah, it's very dominated.
You can go knight to f1, I get it. You will take the pawn on g3, but I take the pawn on b5. I'm going to give you a check next move, opening up my pieces, and your king is still cut.
Yeah, no, big winning chances here. I don't think this works.
No. Bishop to c2 is on the board, and by the way, they're at move 42. We don't actually know how much time Dragun still have. Perhaps if we can see a full shot of him, we will be able to discern how much time he has. I don't see it. Unfortunately, I don't see it. That's not a good angle. That pawn on a5.
Covering the...
Kamil,
That's okay.
why did you play a5? Yeah. That was probably the losing move.
Wow, harsh.
For good reasons.
I'm not even sure
you
he's
cannot see the clock.
You think white's really that much better here?
Rook d1 is a threat.
Rook d1 is a huge threat.
So
Rook d1 might actually just win. So I
think
I have to play Rook
finishes
d2.
the game.
I think Rook d2 is what we have to look at, right?
And look, I'm not saying
No. I get it.
the chances are amazing, right? But let's go back 10 moves ago when they were repeating the position. Psychologically, everything was covered, equal material, limited material, as you pointed out. And suddenly, you're a pawn down.
Yeah, it completely
You
changes
have
your
to
psychology.
defend. It just destroys you psychologically, right? It puts so much pressure, additional pressure that you didn't have a few moves ago. Maybe, who knows, Kamil, maybe at some point he thought that he's playing for a victory. He had the more advanced pawn, the pawn on f5. It seems like the king is closer to the pawn, closer to the action.
Yeah, at some point you're playing for 3 results. Like psychologically, you're playing for 3 results.
Exactly. Right now you're playing for 2 results.
Yeah.
And that if you're lucky.
That if you're lucky. Yeah, somehow my understanding of chess is that black has technically enough to make the draw.
Yeah.
Just because he's so active, the rook behind the pawn, and there's such a reduced amount of material, right?
Yeah.
But you got to prove it. You got to defend it. I don't see how to win this pawn on g3 anytime soon, which means that the game goes on and the game goes on and the game goes on, and the higher the chances will become to make a mistake.
Yeah. Actually, just remembered, he was mentioning, Mikhail, that this is the first victory in 2 tournaments. This is the first victory for... Actually, no, never mind.
What?
White hasn't won a single game in 2 tournaments for him. He lost 5 rounds, 5 games with white in the previous one.
No way.
He lost all his white games.
He's lost all his white games and his first victories with the black pieces.
Yes.
Oh my god.
He lost all his white games in the previous tournament.
I guess I know what your lineup's going to be against us. Can I be giving this guy
Misha with black.
Misha with black, force pairing.
Always.
That is funny.
All right. Wait, what happened here? Nothing.
Nothing, I think, right?
E5. The king went to f8. And by the way, this is a game between Grigoriy versus Abhimanyu. The rook nicely defends the pawn on a6. King controls everything. Once again, the king is the only piece. Actually, I understand why he played this move, king to f8. Because if you allow me, I'm going to take on h6, and I'm not going to go rook to g7, but I'm actually going to give you a check.
And then rook h8.
And then rook h8, and you don't have time to defend with king to f8. So for example, if you make a move like this, take, check, and now king to rook to h8, and I have enough time to get out after I take on h6. Not only that, but actually with the pawn on e5, I also have the f6 square.
Yeah, so you don't want to suffer this. You want to,
No.
okay, king f8.
King to f8.
It's funny. I think if I played the move rook c2 here, you'd be in a lot of trouble. But of course, that's illegal.
Jump.
To c2.
Lichess doesn't even allow me to
draw an arrow like
draw
that?
an arrow.
That's not
to
how
c2.
rooks work, dude.
Yeah. Rook to a1 was played.
Rook a1, but I mean, it doesn't even have a threat.
Oh, so I think they're just repeating, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, king to e8, rook to g1, king to f8, rook to a1. Perhaps king to e8 is going to come on the board, or king to e7, and then we're going to see a repetition.
Yeah, I don't see any plan for white.
No, and it also doesn't feel like the players are playing for anything at this point anymore. No.
Well,
But even if you do get the rook to c2,
yeah, I think at that moment I think you are in trouble.
okay, so let's make some bad moves for black.
Just because we can't find anything, we're gonna create artificially.
Sure.
We're gonna create stuff artificially. You rookie too?
Let's say I go with
Yeah.
with the king on f8. You
No,
got
but
me in
I
the
was
worst
just curious.
situation.
Yeah. This is the worst thing that could happen to Abhimanyu.
Right. King as far as possible.
This one might
Yes.
be lost though.
So you are threatening to go here.
Yes, and that's pretty quick.
Since I'm not getting to c6 to stop you from going to c5, d4 and c5, after king to c3 you basically have two threats at the same time. I can only defend against one, but you go the other way.
Yeah, you could go to the queen side immediately with king d7, and you actually hold on to your pawns. But I think I break through on the other side.
Oh, you mean here? King
Yeah.
to d7. And you do hold on, but now you have f.
Yeah, like f5 or something will break through a pawn. I could even start with b4 or whatever.
Lose. Wait, but how do you do it? B4 to get my king to a7.
a7,
Very
that's right.
important. Yeah, very important actually. Because now after f5 you take g6 and you're not in
E6,
time.
yeah,
With a
you're
king
not
on
in
b7 you would be in time. With a king on a7 you're no longer in time. This is one of those studies that you solve when you first start playing chess.
Yeah.
basically.
This is what your coaches give you.
Yep.
Basic pawn endgames.
Yeah. No.
So, but okay,
And this is the worst.
Incredibly theoretical.
Yes. This is like
because the rooks cannot jump from a1 to c2. That is not how chess works.
Yeah.
And therefore, there's no actual way to get this configuration because the moment you get the rook off the first rank, I think rook c1 comes and black has
Yeah.
tons of counterplay against the other pawns. So that was a good analysis, but it's not.
It's a nice
just not gonna
tangent
happen.
and not realistic.
Not realistic at all.
Okay, so rook to f2 was played. By the way, we're going back to the other one. We don't think anything is going to happen in the game between Oparin and Abhimanyu.
No, I'm just going to turn on the engine to make sure it's true. Huh.
It's 0, 0, 0, 0.
It's 0, 0, 0, but not as 0, 0 as I expected, actually.
Huh. So if you go king to e7, you have some problems, yeah, I guess.
King e7 actually runs into g6,
All right,
but
let's
I'm
go
not.
back to that.
I'm not actually. This is actually just a computer cheat.
Tell me
because
what
I would
what
have never
you're seeing
guessed
on
this.
the computer, Alejandro. So king to e7, g6, yeah?
G6 is what the engine says,
This might be, for whatever reason.
and I have no idea because I mean f5 looks
What if
like
I go
a dead
f5?
draw. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, our engine is on
0, 0, 0, 0.
some sort of
Yeah.
illicit substance. I mean, this
Okay,
is
we'll go
just a
back to
dead
the
draw,
big
yeah.
group. We don't think
Yeah,
anything
we don't
is
think
going
there's
to happen
anything.
in that one. A move has been played by Dragun, and actually right now he has, we know how much time he has, 26 minutes left.
Ah, he played rook f2 instead of rook g2. What a curious decision. Why is the rook on f2?
What if I just continue with this move, rook to e3?
Like, what is the point?
Maybe knight to f3,
I don't know. Maybe he just wants to bring the king in,
king to d5.
something like that. I don't know.
And with the rook on g2, you would have to face bishop to e4.
Yeah, that's part I actually lost.
Right. No, it's definitely lost. So this is the idea that we assume Kamil Dragun is basing his decision on. King to d5 with the rook on g2 would be impossible because you also lose this pawn.
Yeah, and even though you get g3, I don't know if it's a draw, because...
First of all, I have a feeling that I can do this.
Yeah, the engine actually says it's winning for white, which is not
For
very
white,
surprising.
Yeah. For black. Well, winning for white, yes,
Yeah.
sorry. King to f2, rook to f2, excuse me. So rook to e3, king to d5.
Yeah, maybe, because at that point you're going to be reduced to just attacking my queenside pawns. There's nothing else you can really do. Pushing the pawn on the g file is impossible with a move like rook e3. So, yeah, something like rook e3, king d5, maybe rook b3. I don't know.
Rook to b3. To b3. Okay, so let's not start with king to d5.
Let's start with knight c4.
Yes.
Rook c3 anyway.
I cannot go to c5 because of b3. So I'm going to go to here, but I lose again because of this move.
Do you lose though?
B5 is the only move, right?
A4 and king d4.
And what if I continue taking?
Takes on b2 is check.
Ah, that's a check. Okay, so now I have to take, and
But
I get this position.
I
And
don't know.
perhaps
I'm not too scared of that, right?
no.
There's no king activity.
Actually, no. You should be scared.
What?
Rook to c2,
Check.
rook to c1,
Ah.
and I get my rook behind.
Yeah, but even this is a draw, right?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
rook,
don't
F,
think
rook
so.
f2, rook g1, c3.
So you feel like you have enough activity in the position.
No, I know I have enough
Okay,
activity
Take.
in the position.
You do?
I don't have to feel anything.
No,
I
but
know
it's
this
not
one.
clear. Why do you have enough?
I mean, anything that picks up the a pawn and I put my rook on g8 is a draw.
That's a lot of moves. How do you do that?
I mean, king b3, I don't know. It's not that hard, yeah?
I mean, you're one tempo away.
Okay.
Because now you can actually take and go rook
Rook
f8.
f8,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because
And
if
yeah.
you don't get this, then I go rook g4, right?
Yeah. Then on rook g4, well, rook g4 you get yourself made.
Ah,
You
so
don't wanna
even
do
this.
that. But even this is, yeah.
Yeah, it's easy.
Yeah.
It's too easy.
Yeah, black is just a bit too active. So he's actually gone for rook d1 check instead, perhaps because of this activity not allowing the move knight c4. Rook d1 check, the king has to go somewhere a bit awkward because king c5, bishop e4 is not the most
That's okay.
pleasant, but you do have knight c4 still. This knight has to hop there. You have a threat on b2, you have a threat kind of on a3.
Big threat.
And you have the biggest threat, which is actually knight d2.
Yep. So actually bishop e4
Yeah,
might...
bishop e4 might just not be a good move.
You still have bishop c2 to defend.
You have bishop
but
c2, you also have rook d5, but I don't see how they
d5, king
help
b6.
me so much.
And by the way, while we were
Yeah.
discussing this game, as we expected, Oparin and Abhi Mishra did draw their game. So that actually takes us to all results in the A group, a draw.
Yeah, every
for
single game was drawn today.
And by the way,
on the A
king to
group.
c5 was played.
King c5 was played, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because bishop e4 is not dangerous. Yeah, I still think this is closer to a draw than a win for white because of the activity.
Perfect. Before we sign off, let's take a look at the game between Burke and Zhanchao as well. And actually, nothing
Absolutely
has happened.
Nothing has happened.
Burke is still thinking. We see the nice back spy cam.
This is like, what a shot this is from the back of the player, behind the wall. This is, I think, my single favorite
This is
chess
staying.
shot we've
This is
ever had.
definitely staying.
We have to keep this one, right?
This is staying on the broadcast. No matter what happened, we're going to have a spy cam from now on.
I like this sky count. Bishop d4. So we're thinking, like, objectively,
And by the way,
no,
if you
subjectively, which move would you play? He actually
He played
answered it,
king
the king b3. I would have started with rook f7, I have a feeling, but all right, king b3. And I assume that on rook a7, he might just go rook b5, to be honest.
But rook to a7 has to be played.
I don't think it's a choice. If you don't play rook a7, you might just as well resign.
I think so. Either that or rook to b6, but rook to b6 does make a lot of sense because I have a feeling rook to a7 just loses the pawn.
Yeah. So since we are about to sign off, I'm going to cheat. Wow, king a2 actually let go of a huge amount of the advantage.
Really?
Yeah, it's shocking.
So we're talking about this position
Yeah.
when he played the move king to a2. Now you're telling me, Alejandro,
Yes.
and our viewers, and you're not lying to us,
I mean,
that
I
king
try
to-
not to.
that king to a2 loses a lot of its advantage.
Yeah.
Tell us why.
I don't know. It just went from 1.5 to 0.5. So
That's good enough. That is good commentary.
I
brother
mean,
Alejandro.
I would have played king a2 in a heartbeat, right?
Yes.
I play king a2 in a heartbeat. I bring the king to c4, and I think later. But apparently, the engine really did not want to do it. They actually wanted to put the bishop on c4. Keep the rook on a8. If you play this, apparently just like b3 or something, and
and you don't have a way to defend.
you don't
this
have a
pawn
way to
anymore.
defend this pawn eventually, and you're not, I'm not getting mated somehow.
Right.
Like bishop
Well,
c3.
probably just bishop b5 actually.
Probably yes.
Yeah, bishop b5, and now rook to a7 is coming, and you
Yeah,
pick
yeah,
up the pawn.
I agree with that. So you go bishop c4. e4 is the move. Rook a8. It's the only move. And now I go f4, and I start
f4.
and bishop d4, rook d7. You immediately lose a pawn.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense actually.
Yeah, you're just going for the pawn. So king
greedy.
to a2.
Absolute greed, yeah.
In fact, the last move before the time control, king to a2,
Yeah.
very, very natural, by the way. It's easy to make king to a2. And we got to this position, rook to a7, rook to b5, and as you were mentioning, still,
White's better.
John with decent chances to convert. Nevertheless, as you did mention, he did lose a lot of his advantage. Now, as we get ready to sign off, let's take a look at the standings after 5 rounds. In fact, results.
We have results in the A group. Look at that bunch of results. All of them draws, no changes in the standings. Meanwhile, in the B group, we do have a couple of changes as Christopher Yu does take a full point against Brandon Jacobson by forfeit. No change in rating there. And Tigran Harutyunyan, who's having a really rough event here, is lost with the white pieces against Mikhail Antipov. Judge Ali Marandi is playing against Kamil Dragun. We expect that that's closer to a draw, but it's going to be a long fight. And John Burke, who also is probably closer now to a draw than to a win, is still with a fighting advantage against Zhou Jianchao, trying to get that full point. He's a little bit more stuck than he would like to be, but certainly with the press here in this endgame.
No, absolutely. A lot of fun games today. Very technical, I have to say. It felt like today. Now, final thoughts from you about this round 6, Alejandro.
I think it was great. A little bit unfortunate, of course, that we had to lose a player. No, don't spread fake news anywhere. We don't know if it's COVID or not. We do know he's sick.
Yeah.
So he did have to withdraw for health reasons, but we don't know if it's COVID. It might not be. But unfortunately, he did have to withdraw for health reasons. And because it was past the halfway mark, remember that his remaining opponents will get a full point. That is a huge difference from the A group. So a little unfortunate there. The A group was incredibly unexciting today, which is a bit unfortunate because we had some great matchups. I mean, I never really expected much from Gledura Hakobyan. Great players, of course, great fighters. But they do go to the same university and they know each other like the back of their hands. So they didn't have any interest in playing each other.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I was really hoping that Yangyi Sevian was going to be a
Barn burner, of course, it wasn't.
It wasn't this game. And Oparin, okay, he tried against Mishra, but Mishra just continues impressing, just incredible chess, neutralizes his mature, high-rated player without any issues.
Yeah, in a very dangerous and sharp line, that line with G4S8 by Oparin. A fun round. Nevertheless, we will be back tomorrow with round number 7. The tournament continues, and you can, of course, reach us at #SummerChessClassic to ask us any question during the event, but also after the event is over. And we will be seeing you tomorrow, same time, same place, 3:30 p.m. Central Time, with myself and Alejandro. See you guys tomorrow.
See you then. Join us for round 7.
This has been a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club. Any reproduction or distribution of this content without the express written consent of the St. Louis Chess Club is prohibited.